stories come from the heart. He said, on my wall is the symbol of the storytellers in this part of the village. The symbol, the logo of the storytellers. And they said, what is it? What is all of that? And who did that? Because when they looked at it, it had 12 different symbols on it that went around like a clock. And in the center of that circle, in the center of that clock, was the storyteller smiling and telling the story. And the symbols were whirling around his head and his body and his arms and in his mind and in his heart. And in between each symbol was the hourglass. And Pop broke something and said, look, he said, stories are our lifeline. He said, when we were born, when our ancestors were born, the first words that they spoke was words that could tell a story. They said a story was in everything. A story was in the cloth that they wove, the kente cloth that they wove. It told a story. He said, but the storyteller himself was a library. The storyteller could mark birth and death and events and success. He said, inside the mouth of the storyteller were words of responsibility that the storyteller had to live by. And they said, well, tell us about those symbols. He said, I'm going to tell you real quick. He said, at the top of the clock of life, the clock of our life, is the elder. For in the elder's mind is all the stories, because the elder has seen, the elder storyteller has told the stories and retold the stories. And as you come to me, our village have come to the elders, and the elders have always told about our culture. And the next one is Anansi Tales. He said, Anansi Tales are the trickster tales. But at the end, it gives you something to go by. It gives you a lesson, because Anansi, the spider, always learned his lesson coming from Ghana. He said the next is the Ashanti stool, because the storyteller sits on the stool and the village comes and they listen to that storyteller on the stool. That's the stool of respect, the respect that a storyteller has. Next is the tortoise and the hair on that symbol. And the tortoise or the hair represents what? And they scratched their head and they said, Aesop tales. He said, yeah, Aesop was a grand storyteller, a great storyteller. Everywhere he went, Aesop told a story, and Aesop was a black man. And he told a story about the tortoise and the hare. And the next symbol, the 4 o'clock symbol, is Africa with the red, the black, and the green in the background. Africa is what? The motherland. And the red, black, and green is our flag. Red for the common blood, green for the land, and black for the common people, people from the motherland. And they said, what about the 5 o'clock hour? What's that next? He said, that's the black family. Because the storyteller tells stories to keep the black family together. And he tells tales of the black family. And at the 6 o'clock hour, right above the elder, is the African warrior. Because the African warrior is our spirit. The spirit of Nat Turner was the African warrior. The spirit of Martin was the African warrior. The spirit of Malcolm X, our people, is the African warrior. And next, in the 7 o'clock hour, the clock of our life and our symbols is the Ankh. And the Ankh is our cross, the ancient cross. The cross of man, woman, and children and family that came out of the tombs of Kemet that they called Egypt. The Ankh. And next to the Ankh is the Kanara. And the Kanara holds the principles that we live by, the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And the next one is the ancestors. Because after the elders, the next step in this ritual of life, in this rites of passage, as a storyteller, is an elder. So you have to come on the set, tell your stories, and when it's time to go, you become an elder. The next two symbols is the cowtail switch, because whoever holds the cowtail switch gets respect. People listen if you've got the cow. They don't talk over you. They listen to you because listening is very important in storytelling. The cowtail switch says that I have the floor and that you must listen. And the next one, the 11 o'clock hour, right next to the elder again, at the top of the clock. And in between each symbol that I'm telling you about is the hourglass, because the time is ticking. But the 11 o'clock hour is the drum, because the drum is the communicator. The drum is our heart. The first beat that we hear when we're born is the drum, and then it's the elder again. This is the symbol of the storyteller. And one more question they asked. They said, well, who drew that? They said, well, in our village, there are very many visionaries. He said, I told you about one, which was Barclay Hendricks. Henry O. Tanner came from our village, painted our people with dignity. The person who did this was Columbus Knox. Check it out. Go to the website, coatesync.org, and look at the logo, our logo, the storyteller.
And that website is www.kotcinc, that's coatesync.org. I talked about the logo last week, very powerful piece of artwork, and now we understand what it means and how we need to carry it forward. Greetings, good evening, and welcome to Groundings, Evolutions, and Elevations with Brother Shamari. I am Brother Shamari, and the voice you just heard is that of Pop Pop. Grow something, Brother Nasheed Ali. How you been, Baba?
Oh, man, I've been good, brother. I can't complain. It's been great, brother.
Well, that's good to know, man, because I'm, I show today, and I'm a focus on this for a while, because I'm surrounded by people who are not doing so great. Between that, between what's going on in the world and then personal, issues that people are dealing with. I'm watching. I won't claim it as despair or depression, but I think that if we're not proactive about collectively healing and collectively connecting with one another as a village, I think that if we're not careful, it can slip into that space of despair and depression. And so, I'm always appreciative of the stories you start us off with and end us off with every Sunday right here on Groundings. I'm always appreciative of the conversations and the work that Brother Wasset is doing with Spirit of the Drum. He's going to join us after commercial break. And then I'm doing a special segment all throughout the remainder of 2020 with the help of my Baba, brother, I believe, Baba Tom Gordon, Baba Dr. Mtumishi. I'm calling it Stay Grounded and Keep Your Head Up, because I think that we need to be very intentional about sending positive messages and positive vibrations out to our people, because if we're not careful, we can succumb to the despair and the apathy and the depression that I think that a lot of these factors are conspiring to kind of put a spirit of malaise, that's what I call it, on us as Black people. So I'm wondering, sir, how are you keeping up? How do you stay up? I know that you do a lot of work, and your background is in counseling and providing support in the community for people who are going through various trials and tribulations. One of the questions I'm asking throughout our time this evening is for people to call in and share any rituals or processes or routines that they go through, or maybe they've instituted in their family life, maybe even at a more bigger group or community level, to really kind of help our people stay grounded and keep our heads up. What is it that you do proactively in order to do that? So I'm wondering if you have some thoughts you want to share on that matter, Pop-Up.
Yes, sir. What I do is I try to stimulate my creativity. I use that to stay, focused and keep a positive attitude. I had a physical illness this summer.
Yep.
And, I reflected on that and said, I'm very thankful to be here because a lot of people reached out. So it's a reciprocity here. They reach out with love. You got to give love back.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to surround yourself with that love and with that life. Rasta man once told me, Rasta man don't get pressed on malaise because he surrounds himself with life, the children's laughter, the drums on Sunday, the storytelling on Sunday. You got to have something to look forward to. And so that keeps me above ground because there's always going to be troubles in the world, always.
Yeah, I think that we're people who've been inundated with our popular culture, so fixated on keeping it real and these negative rhythms and stories that we tell through, I don't want to blame hip hop, but I'm using it as an example. We can get a little too attached to this idea that black is negative and, we grinding and we hustling and, we got to be tough. And I've been trying to warn people for 30 years, Baba, you don't get locked into that story. Because that story it creates a culture of its own. And I think that right now, man, as we look around, we're going to be victimized by a story that we've been telling about ourselves that maybe wasn't so true from the beginning. And I think that we got to be really more conscientious about the stories and the narratives and the semiotics and the semantics, the symbols and the signs that we allow to impact us and to impact most importantly, our imagination, because once people lose their imagination and their aspiration, then they are lost people. And I think we are in a fight right now to get that back.
Yeah, I think that's one of their tools is to capture our imagination and use it.
Yeah.
And then, once they capture our imagination and they replace it with their own imagination, which is negative, their view of us is negative.
Yes, demonization. They take our imagination and aspiration and replace it with demonization. I think that if we're not careful, we'll be walking around with their stories in our head. Mama Marimba Ani, among others, warned us about what happens when you allow yourself to have a Urugu consciousness. So what I want to do is ask people, share how you stay grounded and keep your head up, because I believe that we're going to be in a collective fight in order to do that. And we got to remind each other. People are going through some really serious things right now. We got to remind people. It's not, acting like life ain't real. But sometimes you can waddle in that pool of negativity and lament so long. And I think that many of the stories we are now accepting and telling about ourselves always begin with this premise that black is somehow negative and damned and wretched by design. How does it feel to be a problem? Well, let's change that narrative. Black is essence, black is power, and we need to return to operating from that space, because I believe that that's the only sense of hope and courage and purpose that is really going to redeem, resurrect, and save us as we move forward. So hit us up at 215-634-8065. Again, that's 215-634-8065, toll free, 866-361-0900. Share with us how you stay grounded and keep your head up. And also any routines, practices, rituals that you might be using either personally or in your family home setting or on your block and in your community, such that we can collectively rise up, and resurrect above this malaise that this society is trying to impact us with. As always, Pop, grow something. Look forward to hearing from you at the end of Groundings when you talk and become Pop. Know something and share your powerful wisdom with us. So thank you as always, Brother Nasheed.
All right, my brother. Peace.
Coming up on a commercial break. When we come back, we'll hear a little bit of drumming from Roya, and we'll check in with my good brother Waset, convener of the Spirit of the Drum. And it's things like the Spirit of the Drum. It's things like Pop, grow something, Pop, know something. It's things like hearing from esteemed Dr. Baba Mtumishi as we become conscientious and intentional about staying black, staying grounded, and keeping our head up. Want to hear from you. Again, 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900. You can also share your thoughts on Facebook Live by checking us out at WURD Radio. Forward, onWURD, anything with WURD in it will get you to our platform. So we look forward to hearing from you. Talk with you after these messages.
Pennsylvania's COVID-19 mobile testing unit, KATE, will soon be coming to the area. Anyone who would like to be tested and receive free information and resources can attend a KATE tour stop. All services are first come, first served, and no appointments or insurance are required. Many stops will also provide free flu shots. To learn when KATE will be making a stop near you, please visit KATE, C-A-T-E, mobileunit.com.
Monday through Thursday, keep it locked to WURD Radio. At 6 a.m., start your day with the Power Hour, hosted by Bishop Dwayne Royster and Reverend Mark Kelly Tyler. At 7, it's Wake Up with WURD with Solomon Jones. At 10 a.m., it's Reality Check with Charles Ellison. Then at 1 p.m., it's The Source, hosted by Andrea Lawful Sanders on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, and the Black Women's Leadership Council on Wednesdays. At 4 p.m., it's Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Then at 7, it's Save Space with Sincerely Sarita. At 9 p.m., round up your day with Keeping It Real with the Reverend Al Sharpton. Keep your dial locked to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app. Or watch live on WURD TV via Facebook and YouTube. WURD Radio. Independent Black Media. Save the date. Friday, December 4th from 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. for the 5th annual WURD Empowerment Experience. And this year, the virtual and on-air event will be extra special as we celebrate the career of radio veteran Cody Anderson and discuss the importance of independent black media. For more details about the 2020 WURD Empowerment Experience or to RSVP, visit WURDradio.com and stay tuned to WURD Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Groundings with Brother Shamari right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
And welcome back to Groundings, Evolutions, Elevations with Brother Shamari on WURD Radio, WURDradio.com. Check us out, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You can also live stream with us on Facebook Live at WURDradio.com and all of our social media platforms at onWURD. Conversation today, if you want to join in, is about how we stay grounded and keep our heads up in this clear assault against our mind, body, soul, spirit, emotion, spaces. COVID-19, among many other things, racism, oppression, is by design. Not just a physical assault, but also metaphysical. It goes for your mind, your body, your emotions, your soul, your spirit, but also the spaces and places that you inhabit. And it turns it all, as we were saying earlier, from places of inspiration, the sites of inspiration and aspiration, to spaces and places that become demonized and attacked, negation, denigration, if you remember those words from Friday. So you have to, one of the things that happens in this is you have to build up your immune system. Your immune system is like your buffer. It allows you to defend yourself against the things that are attacking you. When you have a weak immune system, you become more susceptible to these types of diseases and also these types of attacks. And the immune system is not just biological, as Mama Marimba Ani teaches, it's cultural. We need to build up our cultural immune system. We have to build up our environmental immunity. There are things we can do about the spaces and places where we live, i.e. getting rid of the litter, having more greenery and nature around us. So there are some environmental things you can also do, some spatial reconstruction stuff, some spiritual things you can do. So culturally, spiritually, biologically, environmentally, what do we need to do to stay grounded and keep our heads up as we move forward and combat and buffer this COVID and other ways that this system is designing to attack our mind, body, emotion, spirit, soul, and spaces? This is what we're going to explore today and every day. Every Friday and Sunday that I'm on, we're going to have at least a segment where we're talking about staying grounded and keeping our heads up as it relates to enhancing and building up our cultural, biological, mental, environmental, spiritual immunity against this attack that's on us, because I contend that if we're not careful, we can sink into a space of desperation, despair, denigration, depression, if we're not intentional about building up our cultural, biological, environmental, spiritual immunity. So that's what we'll be talking about when my brother Dr. M. Tumishi joins us a little bit later on. But right now I want to vibe with my brother Waset, Spirit of the Drum. Are you with us, my brother?
Greetings, my brother. I'm with you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, and yourself, man. So I wanted to make sure we had a Spirit of the Drum update. We didn't have an actual session today in the physical space. And I want to talk a little bit about, just plans going forward in light of this safer at home COVID designation that's hitting the city of Philadelphia, and kind of how that impacts the Spirit of the Drum. But then also, as importantly for me, how the Spirit of the Drum fits into this immune boosting thing that I think, this cultural immune boosting, the spiritual immune boosting that we need to do as a people. So many people look forward to the Sundays and what they get from it. So just reflect a little bit, brother, in that space about, just thoughts about where it stands and the work we need to do to make it stand stronger in these kind of times.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. So let me just say that in the words of Sister Soldier, as she always said, and we have to be constantly reminded, is that we are at war. So no matter what we do on our job, Spirit of the Drum, on the radio, I think that one of the things that we allow ourselves to do is to get comfortable and act like we don't have a common enemy. And so I think that it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we are aware of things that are happening in our environment, because, again, we are constantly under attack. So when the new restriction guidelines for Philadelphia kind of came about, like I said, we just decided that the best thing to do, was just to kind of suspend the services kind of for safety. We will still obviously kind of communicate and still building, to make sure that when we are able to, come back together, we'll be bigger, better, blacker, more beautiful than we were, But again, we just wanted to kind of make sure, that again, that, everybody was safe, and then not only that everybody else was safe, that, we didn't want any adverse effects happening on any of the locations that, we were at. So, I am again, still continue to post on the Spirit of the Drum Facebook page, and I'm in communication with, a lot of the brothers and sisters, so they've been calling, I've been calling, and we've been texting each other back and forth, which is good. And the sentiments are, there are a lot of people who obviously are missing, what we have, and, it will be back. But, this also kind of reminds me of how and I know that this has not directly impacted the Spirit of the Drum, but it reminds me how they put certain laws in place to outlaw, remember, we weren't allowed as black people to gather.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, there is this, sense of uncomfortableness again among other people when black people gather and when we organize. And so maybe there may be some people who don't see it that way, but I always, just call me the conspiracy guy.
I'm gonna push back on that. We got to stop. We got to stop. Because they have us so bound with language and labels right now that What that does is it minimizes the fact that this is the truth of the context that we're in. Like, if people go read the executive order, it's 11 pages long, and the sad thing is most black people don't even read it. That the safer at home thing, the restaurant stuff is superfluous. What makes it interesting and in many ways dangerous is that there's literally regulations about who you can have in your house. Like this idea that if people don't live in your house and they come over to gather for a funeral, a wedding, a baby shower, dinner, people are encouraged to see that as a violation and to report that people are gathering in your house, which then gives police enforcement, child welfare enforcement, other groups of enforcement the right to at least show up on your doorstep and question what you have going on in your house. And trust me, This is in Philadelphia. This is not in Delaware County. It's not in Montgomery County. So, of course, there's a racial component to what's happening because it's going to be enforced differently in black neighborhoods than it will be in white neighborhoods because COVID is impacting black neighborhoods differently than it's impacting white neighborhoods. And if we're not clear about that by now, we don't have to dismiss that like, oh, I could be. No, this is the context that we as black people have been positioned to operate under. And we got to be a lot more strategic in our intelligence about how we deal with this moment in this reality and stop looking at people who've been paying attention to this and dismissing it as conspiracy theory. Our people are too immature right now, and everything around us is turning up the temperature, turning up the thermometer, and we want to act like, oh, we still in a nice, cool glass of water or something. It's not working like that. So let's call it for what it is, my brother. I'm not going to and I'm not getting on your case. I'm saying this so our people need to understand, like, these times are real, and we've got to start having real conversations without all these kind of equivocations around, I might be a conspiracy. No, we're not. We've been shut down and shut up too long and unable to have real discourse and conversations because our people are scared to tell the truth.
Brother, I have no qualms about the conspiracy theorist label, but I agree with you. I think that what ends up happening is that people use those labels as a buffer to kind of disguise their fear.
Right.
So, like you just said, rather than me addressing it or discuss it, I just basically kind of put it under the guise of a conspiracy theory. That way, you can kind of make the person who even having that conversation about it, seem crazy or whatever, but the reality is that the condition that we continue to live in, the condition that we see our communities in and our children in, that we kind of speak in about day in and day out, those conditions are real.
Yep.
And there was something that you were saying that when we were talking about how and that's why one of my mantras always is black love is the key. Because I'm clear that when people begin to love themselves and love each other, see, part of the reason why we're going through a lot of what we're going through is because we don't love what it means to be black.
Right.
But the interesting thing is that other people, they might not love black people, but they love what we bring to the table. Sometimes I peruse through these videos, and that's what kind of like keeps me grounded. You're talking about what keeps me grounded, brother. I'm looking at I'm watching these videos of the Chinese, and these, and Caucasians going to Africa and having literally 20 people, 30 people in the group that are all white who are the students, and then of the black people who are the teachers. So they are truly they see value in what we have. They know.
Look what I said. You remember several times when we were doing drumming in neighborhoods that were quote unquote mixed. The people who would stop and take pictures and want to come over and try to get in on the drum fest with us, man, a lot of them were Caucasian and Asian. When we were at 4th and Washington, when we've done stuff at Clark Park, there's and our people have appreciated it too. So I'm not trying to say that we don't, but there's this like, oh, okay. There's almost like, oh, can some of that rub off on me? We don't want blackness, and here they over there trying to get as close to it as possible, hoping it gets to them by osmosis.
Not only do they try to get to it by osmosis, but I can tell you, one of the things that I was looking at, and I understood very clearly. See, they literally buy our culture. Like I'm telling you. In many of these areas, there are master drummers in Africa, and Caucasians and Japanese and Chinese are literally paying them, because they understand the financial concerns. So they literally paying them to come and literally just give up all of the tapes.
Yep.
And I'm looking at these individuals drumming in their techniques and things of that nature, and it's basically sad that we had to trade our culture for income, but like I said, it's kind of sad. But I also want to go back to what you said, like, how do you keep yourself grounded? And I also want to talk about when you said that, when I talked about black love being a key, I understand very clearly
that if we don't come together and understand that, we're going to suffer. Let me say, we're going to continue to suffer mentally, spiritually, and physically, and that's already being done. You can see the adverse effect, to our health on a physical level. You can see our minds deteriorating, and then also on the spiritual level. When you look at the number of homeless people and people on drugs and things of that nature, I'm not saying that it's not them, but it's us, in a lot of cases. And what ends up happening is, as situations become worse, what we do is we turn to those vices because we're trying to escape.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that ends up happening as well is that our families become victimized. Like, you just have people who are innocent, whether it's our children, our mothers and grandmothers, those individuals become victimized, And so I think that one of the things that we have to do, like you just said, we have to build up our cultural immune system. Sometimes we talk about the physical, like the body, but we got to talk about it. And I want to, when we have a moment, I want to talk about just some of the things that I do to keep myself grounded, because I think
share those. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get people to share today. So do that. That's one of the important dialogues that I'm trying to spawn in our conversation today. Yeah.
So there are a couple of things that I do. One of the things that I've been doing, and I've been doing for a long time, that I just love. I am always an advocate and an opponent of understanding very clearly that many of our ancestors literally already laid the path. It's just a matter of whether we're willing to pick up and do the work. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad laid the path. Malcolm X laid the path. Marcus Garvey laid the path. Dr. Francis Krauss Welken, Professor Neely Fuller, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. John Henry Clark. I'm like, come on, like the list goes on. Those brothers, they laid the groundwork. As a matter of fact, not only did they lay the groundwork, but they warned us about this, Brother Shamari.
Yeah.
They warned us and basically told us in many instances that if you did not do a certain thing, that this is what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So you're talking about prophetic. So one of the things that I do is, like, I'm constantly listening and reading listening to those tapes, because there was one time we didn't have that type of technology. But
right.
Now you can read the books and you can actually hear Brother Malcolm. You can listen to Dr. Amos Wilson, And if that's not motivation for your spirit and soul, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
One of the things that I also do too, I have like about probably 7 or 8 drums in my house. So at any given point, I'll just pick up a drum and I start drumming, and then I see my daughter. She'll go to a drum and she does her thing. And I want people to understand that when we talk about the spirit of the drum gathering, yeah, in many senses, that's a physical location where we go to kind of fellowship and, dance and drum and things of that nature. But what I want people to also understand, the spirit of the drum is wherever you are,
Right.
So I'm telling people, like, I would say that everybody needs to have a drum in your house.
Or some kind of instrument, percussion thing. Because the thing with percussion thing is it's you and your body in relationship to the instrument. Pull out from it and move to it and respond to it with the energy that you're giving it and that you're getting back from it. And just, don't judge yourself and don't let other people judge you. Be one with that movement and that rhythm, because it creates a lot of different things. The rhythm is important. The sound is important. The heartbeat of it, the connection is important. And I think that people I agree with you 100%, man. People need to vibe with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you said that. Like, you can listen to a CD or whatever, but your own personal connection to the drum and how you kind of connect with it, the rhythm that emanates from you sitting down and connecting with the drum is so powerful. So, I think that that's some of the things. One of the things that we have to do, we've already seen what doesn't work. So
right.
When you know what doesn't work, like how about you try your culture? Because in all honesty,
that's the power of this moment, bro. Like people's integrity, black integrity is in check right now. Everybody who say they're about, you got people who say I'm African centered, or I practice African spiritual systems, or I'm red, black, and green. Okay, well, this moment has come for you to manifest that. Because like you ain't got no other choices. Every other choice you make is a show of a lack of integrity. If you're not clear right now that the only way forward for us as black people across this globe is to return to who we are and to ground ourselves in our way and in our culture and to connect across our culture with one another, like we're gonna get ground down until we do that, because there's no other option. And so I call this an integrity check. Mud's going to show you who they are in this moment. This moment requires
it. And not only does this moment require it, but with all due respect, you can't hide behind politics. We continue to hide behind, these elections and these politics and things of that nature, and use that as an excuse to basically blame black people for what is not happening in our communities. When in all honesty, I don't care what you say, no system created by your enemy and by white folks is going to be the liberation tool for black people. We need to get that, very clear. Malcolm said it a long time ago. There is no difference between a Democrat. There's no difference between a Republican. It's basically two heads on one snake.
Right.
So I agree that these times are going to be telling, and that we're going to have to reach into our cultural tool bag to understand what our ancestors already knew. And I think we're going to have to some extent. We really have to divorce ourselves mentally from this system in terms of what's going on, because I think that what ends up happening is that we are so attached to this system that when things don't work out, that oftentimes we have a tendency to break down.
Yeah, exactly, and that is exactly the frame of the conversation. We're in despair because white supremacy is in despair. We're in desperation right now because we're looking at America and realizing America's in trouble. And I'm like, yo, if you were rooted and grounded in something different, you would actually feel a little different about this moment, because I see the opportunities in it. I'm like, wow. If we are clear right now, we might not in my lifetime have had a better moment for us to get grounded, reconnected as a diaspora, and really begin to understand how our way forward is in us building with one another. But if you are like wedded to this system, then you out here crying and moping and sad and everything. So my brother, if people want to keep in touch with you and the Spirit of the Drum and the updates of how we're going to move forward, what's the best way for them to do that?
So of course, just connect on Facebook, Spirit of the Drum. As soon as you type it in, it'll come up. You can request to, become a friend on that page. You'll get updates and information. Additionally, you can always, reach out to me, onWURD on Instagram. And my email is onWURD7@gmail.com. So any of those platforms, by all means, feel free to reach out. And in the words of their press, let's get free.
Yes, sir, my brother. I appreciate you. Come up on the commercial break. When we come back, going to hit the phone lines and hear from you about how you stay grounded and keep your head up. And then we're going to check in with my brother, Baba, Dr. Tom Gordon, Baba Mtumishi, as I call him. So hit us up, 215-634-8065, toll free, 866-361-0900. Go to the phone lines, and then we're going to vibe with my brother, Dr. Gordon. He gonna help us get grounded and keep our head up, so stay tuned.
Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. If your heating and cooling system is more than 20 years old, it may be time for your contractor to replace it with a high-efficiency Energy Star certified model. You'll get a rebate from Pico and save on your monthly electric bill. You'll find a list of new heating and cooling system rebates at pico.com/rebates. Or you can call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE for all the details. Plus, find instant discounts on smart thermostats and more at pico.com/marketplace. There's free shipping on orders over $49.
Hi, this is Jeff Brown from Brown's Family ShopRites and Fresh Grocers. Are you thinking about a part-time job to help out with the cost of the holidays? We have plenty of openings. You can apply online at shoprite.com/careers or freshgrocer.com/careers. Come join the Brown family today and help us serve the people of Philadelphia. Have a great holiday.
He's back.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton.
Keeping it real with the Reverend Al Sharpton.
In times like these, we have to stay connected.
At a brand new time. Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. till midnight.
I'm excited that Keeping It Real returns to WURD.
Keeping it real with the Reverend Al Sharpton. Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. till midnight. This program is pre-recorded. No phone calls, please.
Keep it locked to WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. WURDradio.com.
Groundings with Brother Shamari right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Music, so I should stop talking. Is it on me? Because I don't hear the music, so I guess I'm gonna be talking. Welcome back to Groundings, Evolutions, Elevations with Brother Shamari. Groundings comes at you every Friday, 1 to 4 p.m., Sundays, 6 to 8 p.m., right here at WURD Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM on your radio. Having a conversation today about strategies to stay grounded and keep your head up. What do you do in your personal walk and journey to stay grounded, connected, and keep your head up as we face this ongoing assault against Black life? COVID-19, among many other things, coming after our mind, body, soul, spirit, emotions, and even our spaces. So we got to boost our immunity, cultural, biological, environmental, and spiritual immunity. So how do you do that? What are you doing in your space to make sure you stay grounded and keep your head up during these times to prevent this attempt to push us into a state of despair, desperation, denigration, depression? So we'll be vibing with my brother Tom Gordon, who I believe is still with us. But I'm going to jump to the phone lines. I don't know the caller order, so I'm going to try to do my best here. Is JJ still with us?
Yeah. How you doing, Shamari?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good. You had hit on something real key, and I think it's very important that, that we broadcast that. You had mentioned how the contemporary rappers today are talking about a lot of the activities in the hood, particularly the negative activities. And because of the major influence that they have on teens, preteens, and the 20s and the young adults, sometimes those messages, they have too much of they play too much of a role in our lives and what we're listening to. Because when I was coming up, when I was like in my teens and early teens, we was to, words make people. So when you keep hearing, certain words, they start to influence you, and you start to actually try to emulate and live those weeks. So when we hear rapping about the trap queens and the trap kings and the drugs,
but it's not just the rapping. People are singing about it. They said there's a message in the music, there's a message in the song, and sometimes that message is negative. I remember growing up on songs like Family Reunion and I'll Always Love My Mama, and now, you say something like that and people call you old school, because if you're not calling somebody an N-word or a B-word, evidently you're not cool. We let our denigration become cool, and one of the ways that happens is through popular culture and the music. We gotta step back and be able to look in the mirror and say, you know what, we made a mistake there. They got us on that one, and we got to do something different on that. But instead, people try to still act like that's cool.
Right. So I'm thinking that we could, have some kind of influence on the rappers about, changing their lingo to education, to growth, to business, school. You know what I mean? And because it's really the beat that we like. We really jam.
I used to think that, but mugs are addicted to self-denigration. It's not just the beat. They love that N-word, bruh. We have become addicted to negating ourselves through words.
Right. Well, if we can,
keep that broadcast that you mentioned, the trying to change the lingo to a more positive. They'll have like a little revolutionary effect on the community. You know,
Yeah.
about education.
Brother, I'm sorry, because I barely could hear you. I don't know what's going on with your phone, but I agree with what you're saying. I think that's one side of it is that we need to do that, and the way you do that is reward and support the people who are doing the good stuff, and then you sanction and ignore and make sure you don't support the people who are calling us derogatory things, and then that will force them to produce the type of things that there is quote unquote a demand for. We can't. They're not going to change if we keep demanding the negative. They just going to produce more of the negative. So we gotta make them say, okay, if you come in that way, you no longer have sway in our community. And if you come in this way, this is where our money is. This is where our support is. We give you the rewards. We give you the shine. We actually have to change the culture. And then the cultural producers will deliver into that culture. I thank you for your call. Let's go quickly to Friendly Fred before I check in with my Bob Tom Gordon.
Samari. You know how I keep grounded? I keep my mind focused on Christ Jesus and spiritual understanding. And yes, we are in a war, and it's a war against good and evil, a spiritual war. And it's only two families. It's the family of God and the family of Satan. You got the children of the devil and the children of God. But we are family, and it's all about love, not dominating, but showing love and guidance for everyone else in the family and sharing happiness and togetherness and loveliness, forever and peacefulness. And Mama used to say, take your time, young man, don't you rush to get old. And all the things you ask, you will know someday, but you got to live in a patient way. And things you don't know, someday you will grow. And she told me little things like saying hello and thank you, please. And all I want for you is understanding, just to communicate, is as easy as 1, 2, 3, ABC. The glorious freedom of the children of God, which are the family of God. God's design for the family and God's plan for the family. The children of love, which are the children of God. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Friendly Fred. And on that note, let's go to Dr. Baba M. Tanisha. I want you to quickly, not quickly, but introduce yourself. You're coming up in the commercial break in about 3 minutes, but I wanted to get you in on our conversation, and you're going to be with us for a little while, hopefully giving us some strategies to help us stay grounded and to keep our head up during these times. So greetings.
Greetings, my brother. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay.
I hear you well, man. I also see you looking like an Ethiopian over there, my brother. My Ethiopian Eritrean brother. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You know, we came from some part of Africa, and Africa still lives within us.
Yes, sir.
And Mtumishi is a Swahili word that means one who serves. And some people call me Brother Mtumishi because that's my life, and that's what I do. I'm about the healing and re-empowerment of our people, and by extension, all humanity. I'm trained as a psychologist, a licensed psychologist, and I'm in private practice, focusing on leadership solutions, because what you're saying, if we follow the script, we're following a script that's designed for our exploitation, control, neutralization, or death, including our self-destructive, self-denigrating death. So I'm interested in leadership, extraordinary efforts to take us to places that we wouldn't ordinarily go under the current script of the conquerors. And I'm glad to be with you today, as always, and appreciate the discussion thus far. And we'll be glad to respond to any and all questions so that we can get better and better and better. As the brother just mentioned earlier, he's got his strategy, he's got his vision, he's got his drums, he's got his space set up to invest in his immune system. It's never a case that we can eliminate viruses. We can never eliminate viruses. They are part of the challenges that help us to adapt, to be stronger on the planet. And we have to understand viruses and begin to build up our immune system toward them.
All right, so when we come back from commercial, sir, I'm going to just hand it over to you and let you steer the ship. So what I want to do up until that point is try to grab these last two callers. People can continue to call in, but I'm going to get these callers before we go to commercial break real quick. So let's go to Baba Donald, line 4, greetings.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got me?
I hear you. Talk to me.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I was under the influence of depression and despair and despondency and all. And I had gotten a little help. One of my sisters who came to visit me in my apartment and helped me, with a lady's touch on my apartment here at zip code 19111. And what new I've been adding to the African foods, as I was telling you about,
Okay.
With the different spices and all. I've been putting it in my vegetable salads and even fruit salads too.
Okay.
And oil pulling with unrefined sesame seed oil besides red palm oil. I've been letting the oil drop out on my second floor to the ground, to the soil on the ground instead of, like letting it go into the sink or into the toilet.
All right. Baba Donald, sound like you got a full-fledged plan going on and returning to the source in that plan. I appreciate that, sir. Let's go to Sister G, line 1. Sister G?
Sister D.
Oh, Sister D. All right.
Hey,
sorry about that.
How are you, brother?
Good, yourself?
I'm good. So in keeping my my momentum through it all, I'm keeping God first. And I love my grandchildren. I love youth. They keep me youthful. I'm a community person. I'm a block captain. I have my own daycare, and I'm recreating myself through it all. I take it as a purging, a cleansing, what's going on right now, and I'm loving it. When I come out, I'm going to hit the ground running through my creation, and I'm just tired of right now the European look in black sisters. I'm taking it all black, African, nappy hair, you name it.
Right. All right.
But where I am right now, and I've had to take my grandson with the PS4. He is so addicted right now. And I said, now listen, you got to start a, what you call it? It's an addiction in PS4. So you got to start PS4 Anonymous. Said,
right. You got to go cold turkey.
I guarantee you will get some grandmothers that will invest in you and some parents, a whole lot of parents that would invest in you. And we got to turn this thing around now and start creating some games instead of making other people rich. So what can you create? I had him in tears this afternoon because I said, you got so much in you right now that you won't even give yourself time to think because you're waking up in PS4 and going to sleep in PS4.
And Sister D, I appreciate that. My son and I are going to start. That was my challenge to him. He's 11. And it's like, yo, we're going to start a business, man. Everything that has your attention right now, you're going to put that down, and we're going to create a business where our goal is whatever you tell me you and your friends need to pay attention to that's black and powerful, we're going to turn that into a multimedia gaming industry, whether it's books, whether it's media. Instead of y'all watching Disney and children's Disney on TV, what does Black Disney, and I don't want to call it Black Disney, but Black Disney look like? What are the books that super, like, let's get your friends together, and we're going to create a business where y'all going to create your own imagination, vision, superheroes, stories, all of that stuff, games, all of those things. And I think that everybody needs to get down with the young people in their worlds and actually begin to do that kind of stuff. We got to flip the script on the cultural diet that our children and our people are ingesting. So when we come back, I appreciate everybody for those strategies. It gets us off to a great start. When we come back, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to listen to Dr. Baba Mtumishi as we talk about staying grounded and keeping your head up. If you want to join our conversation, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Talk with you after these messages.
Do you have a K-12 student who does not have reliable internet at home? PHL Connected is here to provide eligible students with free high-speed internet to make sure they always stay connected to digital learning. Dial 211 and press 1 to ask questions and get connected today for free. The hotline is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so call anytime. That's 211 to get your student PHL connected today.
Jobs, entrepreneurship opportunities, small business resources, and financial literacy. Livelihood. The new initiative from WURD Radio to connect Philadelphians to resources to help take the next steps in their professional lives. WordWorks.com features career readiness tools, entrepreneurship resources, funding opportunities, and events to expand your livelihood. Visit WURDworks.com right now and take the next step in your professional journey. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network. Groundings with Brother Shamari right now on WURD Radio and WURDRadio.com.
And welcome back to Groundings, Evolutions, and Elevations with Brother Shamari. We are staying grounded and keeping our heads up with Baba Mtumishi. So, Baba Mtumishi, it's on you.
I'm glad and appreciate that music. And you know you have a license to pop in at any point that you would like to. But you asked me to speak a little bit to our people. And I want to talk today and use the concept of 7 F's. 7 F's to challenge the fear and the spirit of fear and the spirit of despair and the spirit of complaint that can grip us if we're not careful. And the first F concept I want to introduce is the idea that piggybacks off of the previous brother that spoke earlier. When he talked about something, he didn't use the word, but I want to use the word fellowship. And imagine if we began our day and paused during the day and ended our day in connection with something other than the challenges of the day. And he talked very, very specifically about people that are here, alive, that we can touch in bodily form. And he talked about John Henry Clark, and he talked about Francis Wellesley, and he talked about Neely Fuller, and he talked about people that we can go to. And that's in the digital age, you can actually see film and listen to film of these people, or you can read their thoughts and breathe again, because you are breathing both inspire, which means to take in breath, and aspiring to be who you are. And your essence needs confirmation and validation. And I do think one of the things that conquerors count on is that we will forget what you said, Brother Shamar, that this is a game of life that teaches us to value our integrity and who we are. And integrity means that you are whole in connection with something greater than yourself. And so if we're going to fellowship with people here and that have transitioned, I think that's a beautiful strategy. It's a beautiful concept. Now imagine this. Suppose each week we said, let's pick a day. It could be Wednesday, it could be Sunday. But we're going to stand on the concept of fellowship, and we're going to reach out and connect with someone proactively and to let them know that I'm glad you're on the planet and I care about you. This is kind, compassionate, daring to care in a time of pandemic and perennial virus. It's never been a post-traumatic slave syndrome. It's been a perennial attack on our integrity. And if you want to preserve your integrity, well, it's no different than a barn or a house. You're going to eventually have to invest in it. You just can't let it sit there. You're going to have to see yourself as dynamic. And I think fellowship is key. And we evaluated our week and said, did we practice a morning and noon and night devotional to connect with ideas and concepts and people and energy? And did we reach out with our energy to serve someone else's need to be visible and significant? We don't realize that the human being always questions and begins to evaluate, who am I? So let's reach out and let people know, I see you. I am because we are. We are because I am. And that fellowship spirit begins to challenge the spirit of fear. Bounce off me if you want to. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going.
I want you to get through all 7 of these things. Go ahead,
all
sir.
Right. So here we go. So now, in the spirit of that, we're challenging disconnects. Fellowship is all about reconnecting and making it a practice. It's not just a principle of connection. All principles in African deep wisdom tradition must be practiced. It can't be a separation from what you know and what you do. Number 2 is focus. We need to be mindful of how we spend our time and energy and the balance of how we spend our time and energy so that we actually are restoring because we've been expending. And if we are going to be fortified and build up our immune system to a lot of toxicities, we're going to have to pay and invest in focus. And in focus, it's very hard to be focused if you are a drunk or a dry drunk. Everybody doesn't drink liquid toxicity. But sometimes, as we mentioned earlier, we're addicted to our self-denigration. We're addicted to the official story on the news about what's going on. We're addicted to appearances. And probably the real benefit of a guy like Christ is that the story says he actually got off the cross and showed up again to let you know that I'm not tied to appearances. You know, so if you follow the logic of the story, we can't be addicted to somebody else's narrative and fall for appearances that's really real. And a good thing to practice this week is try counting all your money and holding your breath. Now, if you don't have a lot of money, then try counting all your money and counting up your toys and trinkets and still hold your breath. You're going to see, you're going to run out of air before you can count all your material possessions. And that ought to teach us that we need to prioritize breathing, aspiring, inspiring, and breathing, rather than prioritize being addicted to things that have diminishing value. And frankly, no one has ever seen a U-Haul trailing a hearse. So it's time for us to actually stay focused on essential things, you know, to really be interested in the essence of something, not just the cosmetics, to not seek to be known, but to be worth knowing. That is the challenge now. And I believe we can do that. And I love the way you introduce music because at some point, Brother Shamar, maybe you can remind people that Haiti actually won that revolution because people connected cohesively and coherently and created ritual experiences using music to fortify themselves and to multiply their force.
Right.
So the 6F is going to be force and force multipliers. Right. But we can't do that if we are focused on today's trivia. We won't be ready to actually do what human beings need to do, which is we can't do everything. We have to prioritize. Now, of course, with that focus comes a lot of power because we are actually thinking and releasing thoughts that don't add a lot of value. So it's that combination of thinking and focusing, but being resilient enough. So let's introduce the third word, resiliency. Now I'm going to make it start with F, which is flexibility. Blessed are the flexible, for they will never be bent out of shape. The stiffest tree is most ready for the axe. So we need to practice not competing with each other in conversations, But imagine if we were with each other and you said, I commit to my African brother and sister, and by extension other people as well, that I will listen to them for a whole minute, to not only hear their content, but to hear the heart of the matter that they're posing. This doesn't happen in black spaces. And you, Brother Shamar, talk about, let's hold space for our liberation. Well, there's conversational space in which the spirit of competition becomes the drum. And we interrupt people and say yes, but, and we try to one-up people as if we're in a competitive tournament for what is the prize. We're fighting over a napkins corner rather than understanding the sophisticated enemies have mobilized comprehensive strategies to make sure that we never collaborate. Well, collaboration starts with listening. And you give me a thumbs up if you want to pause on this to take a caller or two, because that practice is a part of what keeps us flexible, because without feedback, somebody talking and giving out of their generosity something to us, we don't have the information in order to adjust intelligently.
I want you to do the 7 though, and then I have a couple callers to bring in, but I want you to get through the 7 because sometimes you get interrupted and you don't get them all in. So I want you to do your thing.
Okay. So then the 4th is we've got fellowship and focus and flexibility. The 4th is faith. We need to believe in something greater than ourselves. Now, one of the reasons we could be recruited to official religion here is that we as African people always understood that there's intercommerce and interplay and interdependencies between the visible realm of life and other realms. We already understood that and brought that here. So people can run software onto that hardwired understanding of how things work. And of course, with a gun or a whip at your head and a chance to have an hour or 2 hours or a day off, you're going to take their religion. And we need to not throw out the baby with the bathwater. But the dirty part of the water is that they gave you a white God. And Christ is a title or a status of someone that is conscious enough about how things go on. But we actually look to a white God, which is a political trick. So I do think to liberate ourselves, we need to take the best of these official religious practices and frameworks. And as old folks down south, I'm from South Carolina, used to say, take the best of something, eat the fish, and spit out the bones. We don't need to take all of this political fiction and nonsense and be less powerful. We need to take the principles and practices, and even an anointed and conscious person like Christ said, you'll do even greater things than I can do, if you understand that. And a lot of preachers don't preach from that scripture, but it's also a part of the biblical text. You can take Islam, you can take other faith systems. John Henry Clark used to say, official religion is the handmaiden of conquerors. Study the principles and the practices and create a faith system, Imani. Don't wait for Kwanzaa, the last day of Kwanzaa, to get in touch with Imani, which is deep faith in our essence and our ability to practice essentials so that we can advance life on the planet. Next is fuel. And the brothers have talked about, the last caller talked about paying attention to what you take into your body, paying attention to movement. You talked about playing the drums, not being a spectator eating popcorn while you listening to the drums, but being able to fuel yourself with the proper fuel. You wouldn't put sand in a Ferrari. You wouldn't put pig feet in a human being unless you were programmed that you can take in anything and your body will digest it, absorb it without tremendous toxicity. So for this caller to call in and say, I had a sister come over to arrange my space, I'm looking at how I eat, that's very healthy because it fits on the fueling yourself, and that will include hydration. If you drink more water and you have children around you, they're not going to drink Kool-Aid. They're going to drink water because they want to emulate their babas and mamas. So we look at sleep, we look at diet, we look at hydration, we look at who we hang out with, and find a few people. Let's say the minimum number is 3. Table can stand on 3 legs. Find 3 people in your life. You make one, find 2 more that you can pick up the phone anytime or put them on a Zoom, even in a separate distance, social distance world, and connect with their spirit and your spirit so that you are fueling yourself to be your very best. And can we challenge ourselves to come up with 2 more people and name them and say that I trust them enough with my vulnerability? I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be better than yesterday. And in order to advance, I have to fuel myself. Now, the 6th one is force and force multipliers. It's not enough to think it. We have to do it. It's not enough to imagine it. We have to do it. I love what you said about, I'm going to ask my son to stack his brain with mine so we can create a business. Let's think about that. The conqueror wants us to be consumers, right, and conspicuous consumers of toys, trinkets, and trash. Imagine if we decided to be producers of things that added value to the world and fulfill needs. And one way to do that is to create your own business. Another way to do that is to say, how can I support, buy stock, donate to, time, energy, treasure, talent to enterprises that actually are responsible enterprises and are adding value in the world. So we can do force multiplication rather than sit and feed Chick-fil-A and stand in line at McDonald's. You know, let's think about that. And you could buy stock tomorrow, even if you have $10. You could actually buy stock tomorrow. You just have to do the work. As somebody said earlier, we got paths laid out. Are we willing to do the work to investigate? If I've got $10 and I'm going to invest 5, where would I put it? Because before you know it, you're multiplying. That money is growing while you're sleeping. And you're doing force and force multiplication. And then the last F is, I want that fellowship, that connection. I want that superior focus and resilient flexibility. I want that deep and enduring faith. I want those force multipliers to be around me and with me and through me so that I can have fuel and focus and flexibility for the fight. And that 7th F is the fight. You can destroy a chick if you just don't let it fight to get out of that shell. You can destroy a child with kindness and cookies. You need to understand that life is an adventure or exercise in development of your clarity of who you are. And you bring purpose to this world. So it's time for us to struggle. And Paul Robeson, who had some contact with Philadelphia, used to say, the battlefield is everywhere. There is no sheltered rear. We have struggle and fight opportunities at every break of the game, every moment of the game, including the ability to sit and listen with someone who is dissenting and differs from you, and believe in deep faith that if I give that person that black love that your brother talked about earlier, that something better will come out of the conversation in which I give love and not rebuke. I give love and not toxic judgment. I allow someone to finish the paragraph of their sentence and put it together, and that back and forth. And if we can do that for a whole minute, we give people respect and recognition, which is the practical derivative children of love. That's black love in practice. So I want fuel for the fight.
When we come back, I want you to talk about, I respect heavily all 7 of those. So I'm not dismissing them, but I want you to talk more about this fight thing, because I really think that as a people, we've been talked out of the importance of fight, and almost so much that it's almost squelched our warrior spirit, which is actually a righteous part of righteousness requires warriorhood. And I think that in many ways, in our effort not to be angry black people, not to be, you know, whatever these demonizations have been, we've undervalued how important it is to fight as humans. Fight for what is right. Fight for yourself. Fight for your children's future. You know, I know some people who don't even like using the word fight. Like when I say we're in a fight, like, no, we're in a fight. And as you said, if you didn't fight to come out the womb, you die in the womb. Right. The chick has to fight to come. Like, talk a little bit more about the righteousness of the idea of fight, because I don't know that we value ourselves right now enough to fight at the level we need to be fighting as black people who want to be liberated, independent, free, and empowered. So when we come back, I want you to weigh in a little bit more on that after these commercial breaks. That is Baba Mtumishi, Dr. Tom Gordon. He gave us 7 F's: fellowship, focus, flexibility, faith, fuel, force, and fight. When we come back, if you want to join our conversation, how we stay grounded and keep our head up, 215-634-8065. Again, that's 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900. We'll talk with you after these messages.
Jefferson Health offers no-cost COVID-19 testing sites at St. Raymond of Pinafort Church. Testing is on Thursdays and Saturdays. A second testing location has been added at Richard Allen Preparatory Charter School. Testing is on Wednesdays and Fridays. For testing hours and more information, visit jeffersonhealth.org/community testing.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education." For all young people to succeed in Philadelphia public schools, they need adequate resources and materials. But not all students have the same access and opportunities they deserve. As Philadelphia public schools continue to operate with remote learning, we at WURD Radio want to do our part to help students have the resources they need to be successful. Please join us and our community partners, Global Citizen and the Cayuga Elementary School, by donating supplies online so students have the same supplies we would want for our own children. Go to globalcitizen365.org to make an online contribution of supplies.
The views and opinions expressed by the guests, listeners, and hosts of any program on WURD Radio do not necessarily reflect those of ownership, management, or advertisers of this station. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media. Groundings with Brother Shamari right now on WURD Radio and WURDRadio.com.
And welcome back to Groundings with Brother Shamari. Again, if you want to join our conversation, how you stay grounded as we keep our heads up during this attack in many ways, but really focusing on COVID-19, the lockdown, the issues of detachment and despair that I'm seeing in many parts of the black communities that I'm in. Call it this attack on our mind, our body. It's not just the body, it's the mind, the soul, the spirit, our emotions, our spaces, and how we build up our immunity to that: cultural immunity, biological immunity, spiritual immunity, environmental immunity, because the spaces and the environments that we create in these moments matter. So with this conversation, we'll return to every Friday and Sunday, or at least do one segment that I'm calling Staying Grounded and Keeping Our Heads Up. And my brother helped me bring this together, Dr. Tom Gordon, Baba Mtumishi, just gave us 7 F's: fellowship, focus, flexibility, faith, fuel, force, and remembering the fight. So before we go to our callers, Dr. Gordon, talk a little bit more about fight, because a lot of people really want to minimize that. And I think it has to do with the fact, I think that our lack of willingness to really embrace the fact that we're in a fight is directly in accordance with our devaluations devaluation of our worth and worthiness to fight. I don't know that we think we're worth, and when I say we, I mean we as an individual, but also the collective of Black people, of African descended people. I don't know that we look in the mirror and see ourselves as worthy of not only fighting, but winning in the way that our ancestors did, and in the way that I think is going to take us powerfully into the future and craft this future that our children deserve. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, the reason you can bring it up that way is that we're in unhealthy circumstances. So anytime you talk about us operating in a diminished, restricted, apologetic capacity, it's not an outright shuffle, but it's a legacy shuffle, and it's a legacy adaptation. Now, you can't deny our genius, because after thousands of years of Ma'afa assaults, they haven't figured out a way to actually get rid of us. So we are a resilient species, but along the way, the people develop patterns. And so you don't need but one impressive event to have that pattern stored in your personal mind or your collective mind. You have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 5,000, you got a lot of storage. And what you're referencing is something that's a problem, because oppressors would actually like to have efficient oppression. And they want you to actually be complicit and cooperate with your own oppression, which means they don't want to have a lot of fights and a lot of struggles and a lot of organized struggles. So what you're referencing is the legacy symptoms. And I feel like we, in talking about some of the other F's, are trying to set up a force field that can actually get people to come back to center and understand that there is no life without struggle, and that fighting is righteous. And the question is, there's lots of questions, but one is, are we connected to the right fight? And the brother earlier said, I read John Henry Clark, and I read people who talked about pathways and fights. So one is to be in fellowship with the right fight. 2 is to be focused on what is the right fight for me now, at this moment in my life, and to show up for that fight. A lot of people, Brother Shamar, are actually expending a lot of energy to try to get personal safety, personal comfort, and personal salvation inside of collective oppression. And when you make that your priority, then you don't even want to show up for the fight.
Right.
You'll figure out a way to make an excuse, and you're saying, well, excuses be gone. It's time for people to realize there is no sheltered rear. There is no private salvation.
Or you show up like Michael Spinks, as soon as you get tapped at one time, you laying down for the count, because you
lay down for the count. Yeah, you hoping that nobody will throw water on you and make you get back up.
Right.
And we used to have in our community relatives as well as other people that would be role models, if not coaches for us. I can remember running home from school and being the fastest guy, so I ducked 5 guys trying to bully me. And I ran so hard, I took the lead and ran so hard I could run and escape the fight, only to run into my father.
Right.
Who stopped me and said, why are you huffing and puffing and running? And I said, well, 5 guys bigger than me are trying to beat me up. I can't win that fight. He said, well, the point is not for you to run from the fight. The point is for you to understand the fight. And so I'm not going to let you run anymore. You have to turn back around. And the 5 guys were waiting on the corner. And he said, you got to turn back around and go face those 5 guys. I said, now, wait a minute. I'm not the brightest light bulb in the bunch, but come on. How am I going to fight
Pop,
5 guys?
Do you really love me? Do you really love me, Pop?
Exactly. So some people don't want to get up for the count. Some people want to say, well, look, do you really love me? You want me to get my hands dirty? You want me to get a busted lip? How do we win? I don't think we can win. they'd rather talk to you all night about the micro specifics of winning. I remember my father said, when you show up for a fight, you be the person in the fight that is showing up to say, I ain't running no more. You either a punk or you gonna show up and you're gonna fight. Now, I'm not gonna join that fight. I'm an adult. You got 5 guys your age. You go fight them. And I had to turn around that day. And it didn't take long for me to give back and forth debate. He said, okay, time's up.
Right.
You
knew you weren't winning that fight.
I couldn't beat him. So he redirected me to the right fight. And to make a long story short, I had to go back. I had to fight 5 guys. And what was winning? Winning was understanding that the bridge was burnt. I don't turn back. I'm going forward. And I'm showing up in this fight, and I'm going to use every capability I can use to basically put forth the honest effort to position myself to win. And in the spur of the moment, I never thought about it till I got in the spur of the moment, and people start throwing blows at me, and I'm ducking and dodging. I never thought of this. Did the ancestors give me this thought? A thought came to me: ask for a fair fight. That thought came to me spontaneously, and I asked for a fair fight. And the leader of that group took me on, and the 4 people stood around and watched both of us fight. That's a different fight.
Yeah.
That's a different fight. So, Brother Shamar, you just said
respect fight. See,
right. Fighters respect fighters.
You change the rules of engagement once you decide to step into the fight as a fighter.
Say that again, because what you just said, if we could understand it, we're not going to all have fathers to stand and tell us this, but you're telling people now, say it again, because look, when you show up as a warrior, then you open up resources that you can't even see, including the fact that the guy I fought, the leader of that gang, never chased me and never fought me again, and we became friends.
Changes the rules of engagement because it's the mutual respect. And see, that's my thing. You give away your dignity when you decide to take a knee all the time. You give away your power. You give away your fight and you give all these F's away when you take a knee, when you run, when you protest after. Like, all of that stuff is not what people who are black people, who are first people, who believe, who are operating with the belief that they say they have, your red, black, and green African center, walk into that. And everything then changes. The rules, everybody then says, oh, this is a different moment. I now have to deal with them differently because they now know who they are. They're walking in their integrity. And trust me, the most powerful force on this globe, I believe this spiritually, is black integrity. If blackness stays in integrity with itself, it is an undefeated force at any level, spiritually, academically, fight-wise. As long as we stay with integrity and authenticity about who we are as a people, history shows you we don't lose then.
That's why they must come after our integrity. That's why the sophisticated enemy wants to attack your integrity. So I love what you said. Integrity introduces game-changing, breakthrough rules. We change the space and the context within which all progress can now. We create possibility for the impossible.
Yes.
If we're willing to fight for it.
That's what we sacrifice every time we punk out. That's really my thing. And when people say I get because you're sacrificing so much black possibility when you decide not to walk into that power.
Right.
And my thing is, hasn't history shown us enough that when we walk into that, the world changes? And so we're complicit. We're acquiescing to our own demise every time we take a knee. Every time we bow out, tap out. You've essentially, black don't know how to be last. We don't. That's not. It wasn't created for that. So walk into. We're gonna be first, or else we're not gonna be. And that's what we got to walk around, like the authority. I think we've given our authority and our dignity away way too many times recently.
Well, the answer the brother mentioned earlier is to come clear on the power, the transformative promise and power of love. That to love and value ourselves is the basis of this, and I use the term to lead your life for a change, rather than stay following a script that has cast us in a caste system in which by plot definition, you are diminished
right,
and deficient. So we need a new plot, a new script, and we need to understand that in this new script, we struggle to bring into existence. We are the midwives giving birth to ourselves.
Right. Yes, sir. I'm going to try to work these callers in, sir. They lining up, so I'm going to get to them as quickly as possible. Let's go to AB, line 1. Greetings.
Hey, greetings. How you doing, Brother Shamari?
I'm doing well. I'm talking to Dr. Gordon. I'm always good when I talk to Dr. Gordon.
Yeah, good. How you doing, Dr. Gordon? Appreciate
Greetings, my brother.
Yeah, but I think one of the main factors out here is control. So I think that needs to be put on that list because we don't control the media. We don't control the airwaves. They have things that's why they call it TV programming or television. So it is a message in the music. But if you don't control the waves and the airwaves and the message that goes out there, then you can't really educate the people. That's why people buy commercial time, because they know that it's effective and that they can reach the masses and program that mind. Your mind is a computer, so whoever has able to tap in to that mind and buy that time to get into it, then they can control how you think.
Brother AB, I want to let Dr. Gordon respond. I think he was getting at that, though, with the 5th F of fuel. Like, whoever fuels that, if you're taking in, he said sand in a Ferrari, but if you're taking in these denigrated images instead of fueling your own idea of yourself and your aspirations, that's where this issue about control of just what, my Baba Del Jones used to always call it your informational or your brain diet. We worry about our body diet, but we also got a brain diet that we need to worry about as well.
I agree with that, brother, with Shamari, but what I'm saying is that you had a gentleman on not too long ago, he was talking about the rappers and the negative messages that they send out, but those messages that they send out, they're being paid to produce those messages, else those messages wouldn't go on the air. So all right,
I hear you, my brother. I agree with you. Dr. Gordon, your response on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. Also, let's also bring in fuel. Mental fuel is what you're saying. So we could actually begin to have local control rather than stay at the binary trap of they've got all the control and we don't have any. Let's shift out of the binary and actually say, let's look for opportunities to upgrade our high-octane fuel for our minds and to change the amount of time that we spend absorbing their mental food. I think if you think about it that way, it gives you a point of power to decide how much time do you spend on TV, how much time do you spend on certain kinds of outlets, because we know the executive producers of those kind of programming platforms spend billions of dollars, millions of dollars trying to make sure that you have, quotes, entertainment. So I think the breakthrough is both on fuel side, Brother Shamar, but also on focus side. Anytime you are tempted to think that you have zero of anything, remember somebody has trapped you into a binary logic. You as long as you can breathe and imagine something better than today, then we look for places of local control. And you can actually change what people watch. You can have people create skits at home rather than watch TV at home. You can do a lot of things differently once you say, where is my next manifestation of control?
And Baba Gordon, like, that's why we're going to do this conversation, stay grounded and keep your head up. It's a long-term thing, because I'm always amazed that that's the first place black people, particularly black men, go to. We always find where we don't have power, and then we always we turn that into a deity. Like, it's like, oh, we can't do this. It's like, wow, how, when you're men who are supposed to be on the front line of this fight in many ways, your first place that you go is to tell us why we can't win. I think people are going to be in trouble winning the fight when the people who need to fight the fight are always telling us why we can't win the fight. That's a psychology that I think we have to undo before we really ever going to step into any type of this power.
Yes, in terms of communication exchange, it's a natural progression that most people will start with current circumstances, and particularly things that are negative or problematic. It's the way the brain works in terms of our survival. We're checking out the things that are most problematic first.
Right.
But you and I both know that's all fuel for a conversation in which we listen and we try to say, okay, what's the nugget in the conversation? The nugget is, wow, we can't be oblivious and unmindful of the mental food we take in and fuel. And we have to refocus and say that there's many kinds of power and control.
Somebody has to be your father, though, and push you back into that fight. And that's what I'm saying. That's the role I'm want to have with these conversations. Like, I understand that that's our first disposition, but somebody got to now say, okay, turn around. Somebody got to do the Morpheus thing. Okay, now turn around. I'm not even going to help you, but I'm going to tell you, you can't run from that. So it's going to force you now to have a different reframe in your thinking, because now you're going to figure out, okay, I have to win, or at least have to try my best to win. And that's a different mind. That's a whole different set of thinking. It's a whole different set of neurons that are at play at that point.
Yeah, I knew my father loved me. I knew my father loved me. Let me say that the third time. I knew my father loved me, and I'm connected to his love. And he's sponsoring the validation of my value. He's saying that who you are not meant to live under a spirit of fear and run every day of your life from school. So I think you're right. He can then download, I'm burning the bridge, when it's in the context of he's answered the fundamental question. We're one.
So let me do this, Bob. I'm going to blow through the break a little bit and get these last two callers in before commercial. So I want to just do this real fast. David from Maryland, as quickly as possible.
Peace, Shamari. I just really wanted to call in and big up Baba Doc. Baba Doc, this is Brother David, man.
Brother David, my brother, I'd love to hear your voice, and be strong, be well.
Good to hear your voice as well. Part of the Pakazi that I've been doing really quick is I've gathered a group of about 15 to 16 brothers, different age groups, varying from my nephews who are 17 and 20 to a couple of 55-year-old brothers. And we just, we link up, we have a group chat, and we just, talk about manhood and black manhood. And then there's an artist community involved in that. 6 or 7 of us, we meet every Tuesday on Zoom and just talk about ways that we can infuse some of this, into our music and just building enterprises and moving forward. Baba Doc, I'm going to reach out to you because I want you to do that 7 F's, for me. I'm going to bring you in to the group to talk about that.
Always. Stay strong.
Appreciate that. Let's go to Eric on line 3. Greetings as quickly as possible.
Hey, God bless. God bless you.
Eric from New Orleans, how are you, man?
God bless you. Glad to talk to both of you brothers.
Appreciate you.
You mentioned communications. Just for the sake of everyone being on the same page, how do you as black brothers define genuine signs of black integrity versus fake signs of black integrity so that everyone's on the same page?
I'm going to let you take that, Doc, because time is ticking.
Yeah. The real scoreboard is whether you are experiencing, you're either witnessing and or experiencing empowerment.
Okay.
And if you're not, somebody has pretense dressed up in disguise. So that if you're really loving someone, that person you're loving, you and that person are mutually blessed and will be mutually developing and growing and be mutually beneficial to your surroundings, and you will actually show an empowered disposition. Now, we pretend because we're scripted to pretend and hide out. And we go down for the count and we say, okay, I'm gonna look and let you eat donuts if you don't talk about my liquor. So you got a good point there. That's a great point. We got to watch out for scripted definitions of love, which are tied to chocolate candy and romance, not to empowerment. The holistic healing and empowerment comes out of love exchanges.
Brother E, I thank you for your call, and as always, brother, I thank you for your support. Good looking out. I appreciate you, Coming up on the commercial break, Doc. Thank you. If people want to reach out and receive some more energy, more power from you, coaching, advice, whatever it is, how do people get in touch and stay in touch with you?
Yeah, go to Facebook and Thomas A. Gordon. Go to that page and like it and check out some of the things we're doing at that page.
Thank you, and I look forward to having this long-term conversation and journey with you, sir, that we call it staying grounded and keeping your head up. Strategies to overcome and strategies to resurrect and strategies to win. That's what we need right now. And so looking forward to working with you to bring that forward to our people. Coming up on the commercial break, when we come back, Pop Grow. Pop Know Something is going to close us out, so stay tuned.
COVID-19 impacted a lot of things this year, including regular vaccination appointments. Vaccines help protect you and everyone around you, especially during flu season. Schedule an appointment with your healthcare provider today to make sure you and your children are vaccinated. Vaccines keep us safe, and they work. Skip the flu this year. Get your vaccination today. Let's stay protected together. For more information, visit health.pa.gov, paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Monday through Thursday, keep it locked to WURD Radio. At 6 a.m., start your day with the Power Hour, hosted by Bishop Dwayne Royster and Reverend Mark Kelly Tyler. At 7, it's Wake Up with WURD with Solomon Jones. At 10 a.m., it's Reality Check with Charles Ellison. Then at 1 p.m., it's The Source, hosted by Andrea Lawful Sanders on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, and the Black Women's Leadership Council on Wednesdays. At 4 p.m., it's Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Then at 7, it's Save Space with Sincerely Sarita. At 9 p.m., round up your day with Keeping It Real with the Reverend Al Sharpton. Keep your dial locked to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app. Or watch live on WURD TV via Facebook and YouTube. WURD Radio. Independent Black Media. Lifting every voice till earth and heaven ring. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media. Groundings with Brother Shamari. Right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
The Shamari, we're going to go right into my brother David Barnes to give us an update on the new worldview that comes on right after Groundings with brother Shamari. Brother David. Brother David.
Because I know you're short on it. But tonight we have Michael A. Griffin, CEO of Ashanti Produce International. He'll be on with his Africa Matters segment from 8 until 10. And we're going to be talking actually about the death of Jerry Rawlings, who served 2 terms as the president of Ghana and who died at the age of 73 from coronavirus. And then in the 10 o'clock hour, we have our Afrobeat after party. We won't be having Patrick and Jadu in the studio, but we're going to play a rebroadcast of our show from last week because actually Ghana is having an election itself in December for president.
Wow. I didn't know he was still that young, Jerry Rawlings.
73.
Wow, yeah, I thought he would be older than that, but wow, that's serious to hear. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Looking forward, sir.
Absolutely, thank you. Peace and black power.
As always, we close out Groundings with Pop Know Something. Talk to us, Pop.
Yes, that's in honor of my grandfather, Pop Grow Something. And every time he listened to Shamari, every Sunday, he transformed himself into Pop Know Something. And tonight you heard the 7 F's. You know, the fight and the fuel and the focus. And that reminded me of one of those stories I told you was on the storyteller's symbol, the storyteller's logo, the rabbit and the turtle, the hare and the tortoise. Once upon a time, there was an island, and on this island was nothing but turtles. And you know how a turtle is. Turtle moves slow, and he observes everything, but he gets things done. So at that time, it was a lot of rabbits, and the rabbits wanted to come and occupy the world. They wanted to breed all over and take the land from everybody. So they came to the Turtle Island, and they said, we want to take your land. That's what the rabbit said. So the leader of the turtles, they called him the great-grandfather turtle. His name was Futagazi. Futagazi was the great-grandfather turtle. He said, no, I'm not letting you take our land. So the rabbit was thinking, the rabbit saw the turtles, he saw the turtles, how slow they move. And the rabbit is supposed to be fast and quick. I think Muhammad Ali called Floyd Patterson the rabbit because he ran. He ran from Muhammad. So the rabbit said, well, look, let's have a race. And the person that wins the race will take the land. If I win, the rabbits will occupy this land. If you win, then we'll leave and leave you alone forever. He said, in 5 days we'll race. So 5 days, the rabbit would just berate, would come down, would throw shade on the turtles, call them names, say they were slow, say they was too low to the ground, called them green, called them names, laughed at them. But the turtles kept on doing what they do. So Futagazi, he was getting ready in 5 days. He was getting in shape. The day of the race came. The rabbit and the turtle. On your mark, get set, go. So the rabbit, in his mind, he said, I got this. I got this. He was overconfident. I really got this. The turtle, he went away from the starting line, and he was moving slow. He was moving slow because he was focused. And he said, I can't move fast because I'll use up all my fuel. So he was focused and focused and focused, whereas the rabbit was laughing at the turtle, calling him names. You green humpback. He said, that's all right, because that just bounced off the turtle's back. That's what that shell was. That shell was given to him by the Creator. And he knew that. Nothing could penetrate that shell that he didn't want to penetrate that shell. And he stayed focused. Well, the rabbit said, I got this. Let me get some rest. So the rabbit laid back and went to sleep. When the rabbit went to sleep, the turtle kept on doing what he do. He kept doing his business, which was to finish that line. He never lost focus of who he was and that finish line. And when he got to the finish line, almost to the finish line, the rabbit woke up. And he tried to hurry up, but he couldn't beat the slow turtle. The turtle was focused. He conserved his fuel, and he had fight. And he moved across that line. And when he moved across that line, all the other turtles came to him and said, yes, you are our warrior. The white rabbit had to hang his head in shame and leave their land. And that's the story of the tortoise and the hare, the rabbit and the turtle.
Pop knows something is always coming through with a beautiful summary of the things that we learned today. Shout out to you, Pop, as always. Shout out to Baba Mtumishi, Dr. Tom Gordon. Fellowship, focus, flexible, faith, fuel, force, fight. That is how you stay grounded and keep your head up. We're going to keep talking about ways to do that because it is the fuel that we need to feed our people so that we can move forward into black life, liberation, independence, freedom, and empowerment. I'm Mayor Keith Grimes, Brother Shamari. We'll talk with you Friday, 1 o'clock, right here on Groundings, Evolutions, and Elevations. Peace.
Peace out.
This is a rhythm, a warrior's rhythm, victorious rhythm, a glorious rhythm. You hear it, you feel it, it's there in the spirit, it's there in the lyric, don't ever compare it. The beat of the cradle, defeating the label, the people are able to eat at the table now. Divided by